Hey guys, it's Diddy Goofs back again with another video. I think we're on episode number 41. Okay, and this game, this is going to be a bit of a different video because I had started recording and we were playing out a game, but I ran out of space on my computer, so the recording actually, unfortunately, did just stop in the middle, and it recorded like the first 3 minutes of the game, and that was it. So it is 11:55 right now 11:55 in the night right now where I am. So by the time this video is uploaded, I think it will be the next day. And by then, unfortunately, my streak of like daily uploads might have been broken. But because it's still like the night of what is this, July 7th, I think it still counts. So yeah, but I was playing against King Calculator, not King Calculator, but King Calculator from India, and it was a really nice game. I was playing white, and basically how this video is going to work is because I've already played the game, I haven't looked at the analysis yet, so I'm just going to go through the game again, kind of telling you guys what my ideas were. So it's still like I'm talking you guys through the game, even though the game is a bit uh, already played out, but it should still be pretty helpful for everybody. So starting off with e4, and my opponent plays the Sicilian, and you guys already know that I don't play the open Sicilian, so we're going to go into the Rossolimo attack, and I'm going to go ahead and take, and we're following basic um, opening ideas for the Sicilian right here, where I'm going to be playing for the center, and over here d5, my opponent actually surprised me. I wasn't exactly sure what this move was. I don't think I've seen it before. What I'm more used to would be like knight f6, rook e1, and then maybe if you just play something like e6, then I can play with d4, he takes, I take, and then maybe something like d5. This feels a bit more normal to me, but d5 immediately, and I was a little bit surprised. So I took a bit of time calculating. Just like, should I take? And then he can take back. And I think d4 should be all good. So that's exactly what happened. And over here, my opponent played c5 or c4 pretty quickly, in just 5 seconds. So pretty interesting. And we are into this position, which is really interesting. And I had a few candidate moves over here where I could just play something like knight e5 because obviously my pawn is controlling the square and knight would be nice on the square. But I was fearful about just bishop takes. And then if I take back with the pawn, it feels a bit awkward for this pawn to be all the way over here with no other pawn really supporting. We could play f4, something like this in the future, but it does open up my king to some nasty diagonals. So I don't know if I really like that. Another idea was just simply b3 because this pawn also might be very overextended. So maybe we could take. He takes back, and we have queen check and winning back this pawn as well. So we would be just winning up a pawn. But I did not really choose this because it still felt a little awkward, and I don't know, it didn't feel really good. But what we do have is our king castled, and his king isn't castled, so I decided to play more for the center. We couldn't play knight e5 immediately because of the bishop takes, so I chose to bring out my rook, which would be able to support my my knight into the center. And that took a whole 1.5 minutes of think over here, and he played bishop g4, and I'm actually not very worried about this because h3 is right here, and since he's already played g6, if he goes back to h5, we could just play g4, and his bishop is trapped, so he's going to be forced to trade it off for the 2 pawns, so he'd be up the exchange. He is not castled yet, so my king would be a little bit weak, so it's not exactly free. So after maybe like h5, trying to open up the rooks or something, we could just play something like g5 and hope that everything stays shut, but it's still a pretty dangerous game for us. So we are forcing him to really make a choice with this bishop. If he goes back here, we know that we're in for a very spicy defending game. If he just goes back, well, he kind of just wasted a move, so you don't really expect him to do that. But he ended up taking, and of course I'm going to take with the queen. Actually, over here, I felt like I might have made a slight mistake because, well, f3 is usually a good square for a knight. Same thing with c3, but we already have pawns, pawn and knight and a queen over there. Neither of those which are knights. So I was like, wait, maybe this knight on b1 doesn't actually have a home anymore. So I got a little confused. My opponent played e6, which means that he is not really castling yet, which is interesting. His knight still has to move out, and then he'll be able to castle. So I thought that this is a time to actually kind of make some make some play, make some attacks. So I played b3, trying to force some lines open because well, right now he still has this over here. His king is still in the center, and that pawn on e6 is pinned. So maybe we could open up some lines. Maybe we could somehow attack this pawn. He goes ahead and takes that pawn on b3, and I'm going to take back. And he finally develops this knight, this is a really interesting square. I don't know why he chose this square, really. I still don't know. I think just going to f6 would have been better, where he can eventually go to e4. But I guess he sees that idea, which kind of removes all of this idea. Which really invalidates this idea of going to e4, so maybe it doesn't really matter too much. But I still thought this was a really weird move. I mean, knight e7 must be a better move than that. Just at least bringing it over here, bringing a knight to c6 or something. I don't know. But he did go ahead with h6, and over here I realized, wait, his king is not castled, and me moving away these pawns actually opens up my bishop. And I'm going to go ahead and play bishop a3. I spent a bit of time thinking about this move. But I went ahead and played bishop a3 because it's controlling this entire diagonal. And that means that he can't castle. Remember, kings can't castle through check. So no more castling. His king is actually stuck in the middle now. And it's going to take some time for him to maybe castle. So ideas for him would maybe just be bishop f1. But if I take, his rook would take, and then he can't castle kingside, and his queenside is already pretty open with pawns missing on b7 and c7. So I don't know if he wants to castle there. And of course, if he takes with the king, he's still not castled, and he'd probably not enjoy that very much. Actually, he'd be dropping a pawn right here. So bishop f1 does not work just yet. He ended up playing knight f5, giving him kind of showing the idea behind his knight h6 move. Interesting stuff, where I guess he's just bringing it to f5. It's a better square for his knight, so he went there. But I still think that going through e7 would have been a better path, especially on e7. At least it covers this diagonal. And maybe if he played knight e7 now, and then we play bishop a3, he can castle, bring this rook over here, and then maybe play the knight to f5. So he would have been much safer here. But he didn't do that. He went through h6, so this was the position we were at. And I was like, okay, his king is still in the center. His king has no way to get out of the center right now. So we better open up some lines quick. But actually, before that, unfortunately, I did play bishop c5, and it's actually very obvious because we do have the semi-open file. And this bishop over here is just really strong. I mean, it's attacking this side and this side, so really nice square for the bishop. So he can't play something like knight e7 just yet because we'd be attacking this. We'd just be winning a pawn, and if we win this pawn, all of a sudden this b3 pawn is a passed pawn. There's no other pawns, no opponent pawns can really stop it. So I did play this move, and yeah, that's why I played it. My opponent played a6, which is interesting. I thought he would just maybe like move a queen here. It seems like a fine square for a queen, right? But he did not do that. He played a6, and this lets me play queen d3. So I was having problems earlier with my queen being on f3 because it's kind of taking away the square from my knight. My knight maybe wants to go to d2, f3, and then maybe to like e5. But all of a sudden I get to move my queen away, and not just move my queen away, but move my queen away with tempo, because now again we are threatening to win this pawn. So all of a sudden my queen is on a perfect square, and my queen's on a light square. So squares maybe like this would be weak to a light square bishop, but guess what? My opponent doesn't have a light square bishop, so this is looking great for me. His knight also can't go to any great squares just yet. It's kind of just in the middle of there, so my queen is really safe. My queen is not going to be harassed by any knight, any of my opponent's pieces, so it's a perfect square for my queen, and it's very active. So right here, my opponent really only has one move to actually defend this pawn, which would be queen c8. He does have ideas of maybe like this move, but I don't think it works with just like queen check, and then he's forced to block with this queen, and maybe we could just take over here, this pawn. And we're threatening to take over here, we're threatening to take the queen, so maybe after something like this, so he plays a5, I give him a check, he blocks with his queen, I take over here. And if he takes my queen, is there any idea of like just taking this rook over here? I don't know. It seems very, very far-fetched because this rook is not even hanging. He'll just take back. So after something like this, maybe we just take back this queen, and all of a sudden we do have this pass pawn once again, and that would be perfect for us. It would be a very easy win condition. So that's what I was thinking. So yeah, he would have to play queen c8, which is what he does. And I go ahead and start bringing my knight into the game. He still can't castle, so I'm all happy with this. And I'm just connecting my rooks and maybe bringing this knight into a better square. He goes ahead and plays queen c6, and I have no idea why he does this. I feel like this is a horrible blunder for him because he's just wasting time. His king is in the center of the board. He needs to fix that as soon as possible, but he doesn't. He doesn't do that. I don't know why. He's just giving me a free move, so I'm going to go ahead and play rook a5, and now my idea is very obvious. I'm going to double rooks on this file, the a file, and once I finally win this piece, this pawn, I'm going to have that pass pawn on the b file. So very easy to win. So I don't know why my opponent would play queen c6, but now all of a sudden I feel like I'm winning, and he plays bishop f8, which means he's kind of undeveloping his piece. And yeah, he's contesting this bishop, but honestly, this bishop's entire point was to just stop him from castling, and it's done that. In fact, now his bishop is right here as well, which is stopping him from castling as well. Earlier, it was also attacking on a7, but that pawn is moved, so I don't really care. I'm just going to continue with my plan of doubling the rooks. He takes because he needs to get rid of that bishop so he can castle, and I'm like, wait, if I take here, he can castle, I guess. And he might be down like a pawn or something, and we might be winning at the end of this, but what if we just take here? Because this is with tempo, we're attacking his queen. If he just castles, well, not if he castles, but if he just does, well, okay, yeah, if he just castles, we're going to take his queen. So his queen's under danger, so he can't just castle them right now. He has to save this queen, but if he saves his queen, maybe something like this, he's going to be hanging a rook, not just a rook, but he's going to be hanging this queen, and once his king moves, he's going to be hanging this other rook. So all of a sudden, we'd be completely winning. So that would be horrible. So he is forced to take back, which he will, and I'm going to go ahead and take back with my rook. Again, with tempo. So I'm doing great. And over here, if he moves like his queen over here, let's say, I can take this piece, and now I have a pass pawn. So maybe my opponent would be like, oh, we need to take this pass pawn. If he does do that, I have rook a8 check. His king moves away, and I win this rook. So that would be horrible for him. So my opponent did end up play bishop b6, which walks into a pin. So it's a bit dangerous. His bishop is pinned now, and I was like, okay, there's got to be something. So I played immediately c4, and I don't know how good this was. Maybe after something like knight takes here, it can be a bit problematic, because my threat was to just play c5 and then just win this bishop. But after he takes away this pawn, I don't know how I'm going to play c5. So it gets a bit strange here. And if he takes something like this, then I take back, his bishop takes this, and then I take here. It's kind of even. We do have a pass pawn, but it's a bit risky, and actually he might be ahead one pawn, so not as easy as I thought. But he did not take this, luckily, and he's going to attack my rook. I'm going to do a discovery defense by pushing this pawn, and at the same time attack his bishop. It feels like a very obvious move. I used only 3 seconds to play this move. And he moves back, and I'm like, wait a second. We've got a pass pawn, and I know pass pawns are useful for one thing, and that's promotion. So let's just keep pushing that pass pawn. So we push it one more time to c6, and we're attacking his queen. So again, his king does not have time to castle, so his rook is still all the way in the corner over here. So we got one pass pawn all the way to c6. We have another pass pawn on b3, but I'm sure it can become a threat in the future. So what do we do here? Well, we can't push this pass pawn anymore, so we're going to start pushing the other pass pawn. We're going to play b4. Idea being that if he takes here, I should have rook check. Of course, if he moves his king, just take the other rook. But if he blocks with the queen, we're going to take his queen. If he blocks with this this bishop, we just have c7, then we're going to win this piece. So, looks great to me. So we continue this game. He castles. My opponent castles, and I'm going to keep pushing this pawn because, well, if we can keep getting pieces over here, it's just going to be great. Like, his knight is still all the way in this corner, so it's not very helpful. And we have 2 pawns very close to promoting. We've got a rook that's very active, covering a lot of squares here, so there's no chance of like the queen coming trying to behind or attacking these pawns from behind. So there's no threat of that. And I realized here, wait a second, actually, what I realized was that these squares are really strong for my knight. So after something like this, I start bringing my knight in. At the same time, I'm actually defending this pawn, which is nice, defending this pawn. So he did add an attacker by blocking this pass pawn. Unfortunately, I can't keep pushing the pass pawn because he'll just take it. It's completely free, no ideas behind it. But yeah, so I'm going to start bringing my other piece into the game. I already have my rook here. I already kind of have my queen here defending this. I already have these pass pawns, but if I can bring this knight in as well, will be perfect. So I am defending this, and I was like, wait, I was thinking there were ideas of like maybe my opponent will try to win this pawn, but with that, you just drop this bishop. So don't drop the bishop, and my opponent doesn't drop the bishop. He plays rook c8. That's a fine move, but I'm going to continue with my plan of bringing this knight over here. If so, we did remove a defender of this pawn, but we're also removing an attacker by just blocking it. So if he takes something like this, I think we should just be able to take here. But now I'm actually kind of confused. Wait, this could be a bit dangerous. I'm not exactly sure. So if he takes here, I'm scared of like walking into here, and then we're walking to the pin over here. So maybe he has something like this. But wait, his piece is just hanging. So still doesn't work, and we'd just be completely winning. He goes ahead and plays queen to d7, or d6, sorry. And that just drops a piece. So similar idea to here, like if he ever moves his queen away, he just drops a bishop. So he drops that bishop, and he's trying to bring this rook onto an open file. Over here, I might have actually just had like rook here, which is a little safer, just blocking this file completely. And of course, if he does take, then we're just going to take back with this piece here, and we just have 2 pawns ready to be pushed. But I block with this rook, which also, I mean, which with the knight, which also perfectly works because we're controlling the square, so we can push this pawn. We're controlling this square, so we might have some trades in the future. Looks great. My opponent plays e5. I guess just trying to generate some of his own play over here. I go ahead and take. I'm not worried. He takes with the queen, and we're going to start pushing this pawn because it's a pass pawn. We got to push it. We're literally 1 square away from getting a queen. He drops a check, and I'm like, I get a bit afraid. But even if we go here, and he gives us a check again, we should just have g6, and we're all good to go. So no problems there at all. But I go ahead and block with my queen. So now I'm threatening several things. Threatening to just take his queen. Threatening to play rook b8 to promote. Threatening to play, I guess, knight b8, blocking his rook off so I can promote. Lots of different things. Of course, my opponent doesn't want to trade queens because I'm just completely winning on the other side of the board. So he tries to save it, but I just have rook b8. And if he takes, I'm just going to promote, right? So he moves away his king. But I'm not forced to take his rook here. I can just promote. So now I got my other queen on the board, and after that, my opponent just resigns. So I've got 2 queens on the board, and my opponent is just resigning here. We have another pass pawn here too, so I guess we could have gotten a 3rd queen soon as well. So that was a pretty good game. And unfortunately, the engine does say that I have 1 blunder, so we still got to check out this game review and try to figure out where we went wrong. So let's figure it out right here. So into the analysis, and actually looking at this, we were playing really good, and all of a sudden we blundered this game away. And my opponent had a -4 advantage, and I don't think my opponent would have also either thought that it was that bad for him either, because was that good for him either, because my opponent seemed to be under pressure the entire game. But actually, right here, the coach, chess.com coach, says giveaway, nice comeback win, which is a bit annoying, because I felt like I was winning the entire time. But let's go ahead and look at this game. So this is all book. c3, d5 isn't an accuracy, and apparently I can just push this pawn. I don't know, because I guess he has push here. I take, he takes. It feels a little awkward because this pawn is going to be all the way up here by itself, so I don't know. But I took here, and this is still fine. And we played rook e1, which is an okay move, but apparently b3 is the best move here. So that was that. after bishop g4, b3 is still the best move here. And these pawns are actually, I guess, just so overextended that they're just super weak. They're very easy target with things like this and taking here. So we should have done that for sure. I took with the queen, though, and we're playing like this. And if we finally get the b3 move in, which is nice, and now we have this semi-open file that we can use to attack. And he plays knight h6, which is, as I said, a mistake. This allows the opponent to prevent castling. Yep. A better move, I'm going to try this out. Let's see. What if he did something like this? 97. It's still +1. Apparently the best move for him was a5. Interesting. a5, and I still want to get my bishop onto, bishop a3, bishop c5 still happens. But it's a little better for him, I guess, because he is going to get this knight e7 move eventually anyways, so it doesn't matter. But still interesting. Maybe there's a threat of me playing like rook a6 and really making sure that this pawn stays very vulnerable with like queen d3, and now this rook is stuck here, so you can't push it away. And this pawn is also stuck here, so eventually we will get this rook and still win this pawn. So maybe there's some ideas like that. But here we just have bishop a3 after his knight moving over there. So this is perfectly played. And we do play bishop c5, which is a bit of a mistake. I'm a bit surprised. Difference is like 1.77 versus 1.13, which is interesting. Apparently knight d2 is the best move, and I don't know why. We do end up playing knight d2 ourselves in the future. And actually, switching over to this computer analysis, which is going to be a bit higher depth, it does say bishop c5 is the best move. Knight d2 is not too far behind, though. Yeah, I don't know, but I think this move is fine then. He does play a6, which is a mistake, and we see queen d3 immediately. Going to play that. And we bring in this knight d2. He plays queen c6, which is apparently an okay move. For him, the best thing would have been bishop f8, but I think I still would have continued with this plan. So, I'm not very worried about this. Rook a5 is actually a mistake. Apparently c4 was the best move. Interesting. I guess if he takes, then we're going to take him out with this pawn, and now we do have a passed pawn, and we can just keep playing in the center. So we just win straight up. But I think rook a5 should also be okay. No, apparently rook a5 is not the best move. Rook a2 is better. Rook a3 is better, but I don't see rook a5 here at all, which is very interesting. So c4 is an idea, which is what the lower depth review was saying. But b4 is also an idea, just pushing here. That makes sense. But really, there's a lot of winning ideas. And I played the rook a5, which is still decently strong. And as the computer keeps thinking, it gets better and better, 1.62. So I'm not too worried. He goes ahead and plays this bishop f8, and I'm going to go ahead and play the other rook to a1. So I feel like this is still fine. I mean, it's +2, so can't be bad at all. And apparently rook takes a6 is a mistake. This was a mistake, and after something like this, queen b7 is the best move, and I played here. Okay, wait, let's go back just a little bit. So, apparently this is the best move, and it is very easy to see the win, I guess, with something like this. So, like, let's say castles, I have b4, and this is all very solid. So, we could get like a knight onto the square eventually and then push or something. Or maybe just get a knight here and then push. So, this should still be very winning for me. But we went ahead with this idea here, and all of a sudden we're actually completely losing. And I'm not sure why. So after this, I thought he might just play something like knight takes d4, and I don't know how it would continue here. Apparently queen takes d4 is the best move, but after something like this, he is ahead. Oh no, he's not ahead in any pawns, but if he just takes something like this, or actually says king d7 is the best move. I do have passed pawns, but he also gets a passed pawn. So if I push like c5, all of a sudden he also has a passed pawn. So it's a very interesting position. I don't think it's great for me, but it should still be playable. But he did play queen b7, which is apparently the only move of the position that keeps his threat. I play c5, which is inaccuracy, so it's okay probably. But let's keep looking at how exactly he's supposed to control this, and I'm going to keep playing the best moves, or not the best moves, I guess. B4 is still really good, so I'm going to play B4, try to make something happen here. And apparently bishop B6 is his mistake. I don't know what's going on. This is a really messy game now. B5, and it's apparently 4.6, and as the computer keeps thinking, it's going to keep getting higher and higher and higher, and eventually it'll reach 5 and find like mate in 42. But apparently knight d6 was the best move here, and yeah, how do I actually save this pawn? There's no way. It's overextended. There's no way. He needs to bring his knight into the game and figured this out, but he did not see this move at all. He played bishop b6 here, and here I should have played something like knight f30. I guess going for this square and then maybe hopping in here. But I played the other side, knight b3, which can't be that bad, right? Can't be that bad, but apparently it is. He still has knight d6. And and knight d6, and if I go here, he takes. I'm going to take back, and I'm going to lose a pawn. So, knight going through to c5 will let him take with the bishop and open up his queen again. So that's, I guess, the problem here. But he did not see these moves at all. And now all of a sudden I have knight c5 over here, and he plays queen d6, which is a complete blunder because he just drops a piece. And now it's very obvious to see the win over here. So apparently, actually, we were completely losing this game. So yeah, I understand why he says nice comeback win now. But here, we should not have taken there because as we saw from the opponent line, he does have knight here and then eventually wins this pawn. So we don't actually have a way to hold on. But after something like this, he castles b4. And let's say e5. Do we just play like knight here? Oh no, we do end up winning this. Oh, we do end up winning this pawn regardless. So we got to, I guess, greedy, just trying to win this pawn immediately. But this pawn is going to be sitting here for a while, so we did not need to be threatened at all. So even after like castles, I could play b4. It's still protected. This pawn has been hanging for like 4 moves now. But now, whenever he plays this, now I can finally take this, and I'm not scared at all to delay this because it's always going to be a free pawn. And now I have this passed pawn, I have this passed pawn. He does have some ideas of like pushing like e4 and playing through the center, but I'm still +3 because of these 2 passed pawns, and I should still be able to win this. So that's very interesting. But I was very, very greedy. I wanted to win this pawn immediately, and this actually led to a really bad position. He could have been able to win if he just brought his other piece into the game. If he brought his knight into the game faster, all of a sudden he would have been winning because there's no way for me to keep pushing these pawns then. No way to actually defend these pawns. You can see that this bishop is blocking both this rook to a5 and rook to b6 moves, so I would have just been really bad and really behind. But my opponent did not find these moves, and you guys can see that my opponent was actually 2008 after the game, so he's a really strong player as well, but he missed these moves, unfortunately. But fortunately for us, that means that we got a win. So, cool review. Unfortunately, we were not able to play the game live, but walking you guys through my thought process without looking at the analysis beforehand was sort of similar, so we still got the same ideas. So I think it still works out. But wow. Yeah, that was a big mistake. And I guess the most important thing to take out of this game would be that, like, if there's a piece that's hanging, do you even need to take it? Because you can always take it. Or, like, how like, what else can you do in that time, right? Because, yes, we could take it. We could take it immediately, but by taking it immediately, we lose a lot of other threats. We lose the time to do other things. And if this pawn is going to stay hanging for a while, it's okay to keep it hanging for a while because you're going to win it eventually anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you take it fast or slow because you'll get it anyways. But make sure you improve your position before taking it so you take at the optimal time. So interesting thing, we were able to beat King Calculator from India, and I think that was a great game. So it was a Sicilian defense Nyezhmetdinov-Rossolimo variation. So fun stuff, and I think that should be it for this video. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.